I had already made a mood board in January of this year with style for winter that I had kind of gravitated towards, or that at least made sense with my closet, and that also just looked really beautiful, so it was inspiring. All of that stuff was really dark, lots of layers, pretty heavy. I had that in mind at the end of summer, thinking, how do I make my hot weather self look like that? So my summer look was very colorful, playful. It had like a kind of, in my mind, kind of sexy feel, which just came from more skin. Both, I think, in my head looked quite effortless, but neither looked effortless outside of the context in which it should exist. These are all intuitive and they make sense. The effortlessness is there because in summer, you don't want a lot of coverage, or if you do, you want sun protection, you want looseness, you want to breathe. And I was so fixated on trying to get those individual qualities, vaguely sensual, easy breezy, playful, youthful kind of look, and migrate all of those things to my winter self. The biggest problem being in winter, I already know what my winter closet is. It's a lot of wool, kind of heavy, or if I have a lot of layers, eventually I feel like, like the Michelin Man. And so I was really struggling with I have no patterns for winter, no lightness, no sensuality, there's no skin, there's nothing that looks even remotely feminine at some point because of the weather. So how was I going to take all that fun summer, youthful, effervescent sexiness and then shoehorn it into what I knew my winter wardrobe would be? Enter actual cold weather. Finally, it stopped being a hypothetical, and I had to just get dressed for 50 degrees, even 40 degrees early in the morning. And I think that reality shift, it helps me figure out, how do I bring that same effortlessness, which ultimately is the prevailing quality I do care about, from summer over to winter. The effortlessness in winter just won't naturally yield the same results as that effortlessness yields in summer. But remembering that effortlessness is actually the focus, not all these secondary qualities, like the sensuality, like the playfulness, the color, the print, the vibrancy. Those things are not the focal point. The focal point is, I want to feel good, I want to look like I feel good, and I want to look natural. That effortlessness comes from those things. So, what is natural in winter? This depends on exactly how cold you're dressing for. Maybe like a 40-degree morning, this is good, right? Inner layer, middle layer, outer layer, scarf, some wool socks under tall boots so that I don't get cold legs. For me in winter, this is what effortless, easy kind of looks like. And it's so different to summer, right? In summer, the easy thing is this baggy shirt for me, long, loose shorts, maybe a little heel or a flip-flop, a nothing shoe. It's so much lighter. The effect is so much lighter altogether. And I think that was my block. I hadn't faced the practical reality yet that reminded me what effortless looked and felt like in this new situation. This is what looks good to me in winter, but also what feels the most correct. I'm not going to get cold for the sake of fashion anymore. Or if I am, it's going to be once in the winter for an event or something. My idea of what looks natural and what fits me best is also the thing that makes me feel the most comfortable physically, psychologically. And I know that if I did a tight moment, exposed midriff but big coat, those are the things that to me look a little too forced. You can see the discomfort, or at least I feel like I can see where I would be uncomfortable. Those are never the direction that feels natural or intuitive to go in. The intuition shift is what matters. Back in January of this year, when I was on a no-buy, I had made a mood board. And I think the mood board reflected my desire for where I could evolve my winter fashion. But at the time, I'd already figured out, this is what my closet looks like. How do I bring it into a direction that feels realistic given the pieces I own? There are some really beautiful, super simple, draped, navy, black, gray pieces. And the looks are layered, they're interesting. I think at this point I've added enough to this that it's not strictly winter anymore, but there absolutely is this kind of neutral, minimal, very simple undertone to all of these. The prevailing vibe is so different to how I dressed in summer, just a few months after making the mood board originally. I think it's because I had that context in my head at the time that I made this. And now that I look at it, I'm I don't feel freaked out when I first looked at it in, August or something, I really had this instinct of like, oh my God, what is this? What was I thinking? Because like I knew I thought this was beautiful, but I also had no instinct for putting these things together, and I had no circumstance to force me to do it. Ignoring the reality we live in. I think this is so easy with trends, and especially seeing online brands release so much stuff, new themes come out that you want to focus on or maybe incorporate into your wardrobe every season, or you just see so many new, interesting, different people dressing in cool ways. You can end up very easily fixated on all these other people who are dressing for a reality that isn't yours. And I think the lesson I've learned this past month has been remember to ground yourself in your reality, the reality of your closet, but also the reality of what are you willing to sacrifice to dress? What are the conditions you must dress for? What is your minimum bar for comfort? What do you think looks good given this? You need to consider all these factors, and then your dress will feel very personal, almost entirely without all that much control on your end. But it will feel suited to your life, and hopefully it looks quite a bit like you. And from there, you can evolve. From there, you can iterate, right? Like when I was putting my first cold weather pieces together, I was like, oh, okay, interesting, interesting. It is actually a lot of black, a lot of navy, gray. It's very cool toned. In summer, I had so much color. I don't feel the need for color as much in fall. In part, I think it's because when I look around outside of me, when I look outside of my home, in nature, in the world, there are so many more colors in summer just naturally occurring. It feels right, it feels intuitive to emulate that on some level, to speak to that with the clothes. It makes me feel a bit more like I'm blending into my environment, or maybe not blending in, but I'm suited to my environment, a little bit matched to my environment. And now it's fall, not quite winter, but fall. So the heavy color, the dark color, it feels a little overburdened, feels a bit too much. But I've slowly been acquiring more and more browns and shades of brown the last several years. And I was like, okay, how do I warm this up? How do I take this in a direction I haven't done before? Because I do think there are lessons you can learn from seasons that aren't happening right now. And you don't need a new closet for every season. So how do I take the lessons from that season and evolve what I learned from that and bring it into winter?